Got it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of us will be this morning. I've gotten a couple of messages from people that can't come. Well,
They don't know what they're gonna be missing.
Today's also the first day of Rosh Hashanah, so Shana Tova, everyone. But some people might not be on because technically it's a day of no work. So.
and Peter, if I'm right, you're doing the invocation today, right? For
Yes, that's correct. Leah got in touch with me and we did a swap.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm gonna do my best. The only problem with the new computer is I'm downstairs now and the kids are upstairs. So I'm sure Jeannie can understand that I'm trying to get 2 teenagers ready for high school. So, and one is this first day.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, Cathy.
Good morning, welcome.
Morning.
Good morning, Pauline.
Hey, Pauline.
Leanna, are you running around crazy this morning too, getting kids ready?
Hi, yes. I just got them set up downstairs.
Or
How
they
you
do it
doing?
online?
No, I mean, I got them set up with breakfast.
Oh, my.
Hey, Peter, I saw you at the busy Foodland yesterday. I was in line. You were
Oh,
walking-
I didn't see you.
You-
You must have been
Yeah,
behind a
I
mask.
know, I was. I have my hat on and my mask on. And
Yeah.
anyway, busy store on holidays, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the only store open.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm there every day, so
Are you really?
pretty much.
You're like a European shopper? You shop the day of?
Well, I give everybody directions. I'm just like,
Yeah, that's right.
like I work there. I know the place so well.
Yeah. Oh, I need coffee. I forgot my coffee. I'm gonna go get it.
Gordon, where are you coming from?
Ever heard of a place called Halifax?
I have many, many times.
It's in Nova Scotia.
It is.
And I bet it's lovely this morning.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places to visit in Canada.
So
Nice.
you have to, are you gonna do the brewery tour?
No, I'm gonna do some golfing.
Len and I are pretty sure that we can actually do the brewery tour without the actors because we've done it so many times.
Does that look familiar to you?
Beautiful.
Nice.
There's some kind of waterway. There's a restaurant called Salty's where we got clam chowder.
Oh,
That's right on the, it's right on the boardwalk area, right? Salty's?
Yep.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
it's nice. You've been to the Bicycle Thief? That's one of my favorites.
Bicycle who?
The Bicycle Thief. It's a restaurant.
No.
Oh, gotta try it. And I don't eat lobster, but I understand it's one of the best places along the boardwalk there to get lobster.
I thought all lobster came from the same place. Shouldn't it all be the same? And they just boil it.
All about how you cook it, apparently.
Dirty Nelly's has a great pint of Guinness scored.
Again.
What's with the names?
Again, what's with the, shouldn't the Guinness be the same?
It's all how you pour it.
the Triangle is also a great place for lunch.
I went to, yesterday we went to a place called the Midtown, where when I went to the Midtown just over 30 years ago, it was like the worst place to go to in Canada, which attracted people like the people I was hanging out with. But it's really upscale now. Like they serve different kinds of beer now and food. They got a menu instead of just food.
There you go. Moving up.
Mhm. Well, that's my part of the program for today, the community update.
Thanks, Gord.
What's the weather like, Gord?
It was rainy yesterday and perfect today. Warm. Halifax is a wonderful place. So why would anybody want to move from Nova Scotia?
I never technically lived there.
Technically.
I was sort of created there. That's about it.
A little bit spending time here. Don't you do that?
I do. Well, my birth mother is in Antigonish. I have an uncle in Halifax, a niece in Halifax. I've got cousins in Dartmouth. 5 of my uncles live there. But not in the last 2 years, I haven't been.
Bowmanville's for you.
All right. We are recording. I think we're going to get started. I'll try and let people in as we're coming along. My apologies if I have to slip it in and out. I just got to make sure the kids actually go to school. So welcome to the September 7th meeting of the Bowmanville Rotary Club. It's nice to see everybody's faces. Hopefully we'll see them in person soon. So I want to welcome our guests. We've got Cathy Abraham and Jeannie Armstrong, who are going to be talking to us about back to school. So they'll be a little more formally introduced in a few minutes. So welcome. We'd also like to do our land acknowledgement, which is we'd like to acknowledge that here in Bowmanville, we are on the territory covered by the Williams Treaty, and that this land is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. We offer our gratitude to Indigenous peoples for their care of the land and their teachings about our earth. Peter, can I ask you for our invocation?
Yes, good morning, everyone. As we gather here today as Rotarians, let each of us be ever mindful of opportunities to render service above self to our fellow citizens and to our community. Keeping in mind the enduring values of life, each of us exert our best efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let each of us always strive to make a better world.
Thank you, Peter. Excellent. Pauline?
Yes,
Do we have any birthdays or anniversaries this week?
we have a couple of celebrations, no birthdays, but Lisa and Dave Tamblin are celebrating 24 years of marriage. So congratulations to Lisa and Dave. And Rachel, who can't be on the call this morning because she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, trying to get 2 boys off to school. She will celebrate 3 years of being a Rotarian, 3 years of service above self for Rachel. And that's it.
Very good. Okay, Jen, I think you're going to introduce our speakers, and then if I'm correct, they each have a presentation for us.
That's right. So as a few people have mentioned this morning, today is the first day of school for a lot of kids. My kids don't go till Thursday. Durham's doing it a little bit differently. They're not going until Thursday, which works out for Rosh Hashanah. But a lot of us have kids going to school this year, and we're still in the midst of the pandemic. The 4th wave apparently is happening right now, and especially in certain parts of the country more than others. And there's still a lot of uncertainty associated with going back to school, a lot of nervousness on the part of the children, depending on their age and their levels of anxiety that are normal to them. That uncertainty can manifest itself in different ways. So there's a lot going on this year. And I think it's important that we recognize that it's not going to be another normal year again. The schools have been put through the ringer for the last year and a half. The teachers have been put through the ringer, the support staff, the custodial staff, certainly. School upgrades and air system and air quality upgrades have been made in a lot of schools. So there's a lot that's changed. There are a lot of boxes to tick off. There are a lot of additional expenses. There are a lot of considerations that need to be made. Also, that parents and their children, especially the children who are too young to be vaccinated, can feel safe going back into the learning environment. So we have a couple of people representing our school boards today. First, we have Cathy Abraham. She is a trustee with the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board and also president of the Ontario School Boards Association. We also have Jeannie Armstrong with us today, and Jeannie's with the Peterborough, Victoria, Northumberland, and Clarington School Board. She's the board superintendent for learning, faith, and equity, and the Indigenous Education and Secondary Program. So that's quite the title. So thank you for both of us, for both of you coming in to speak with us today. We really appreciate it, especially considering that it must be a very busy day for you. Cathy, would you like to make your presentation to us first?
Actually, I think when Joe and I talked about this, because Jeannie, I know you have a PowerPoint presentation, and really because it's provincially mandated, I suspect it's going to be very similar. So when Joe and I talked about this, I think I'm going to answer some specific questions after Jeannie's presentation. And I just want to say Jeannie's probably way more busy than I am. As a trustee, I get busy after the kids all come home from school. So
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No, not at all. All right, Jeannie.
Okay, thanks so much, Cathy. And yes, Joe was very specific with me. I have to keep within the timeline and I have to answer all of the questions. So I'm going to try to do that for all of you this morning. So I'm very happy to represent PVNC this morning. Unfortunately, our trustees could not attend, but I'm very happy to share our back to school plan and hopefully answer any of the questions you may have. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Just make sure you can see my presentation, please.
Yes, we can see it.
We're good? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So one of the key pieces, and it was interesting in the introduction that you mentioned the word normal. So I'm immensely proud, as you mentioned, the many challenges that staff and students and families have indeed gone through over the last couple of years. I'm very proud of the resilience and the hope that they demonstrate in the face of adversity. And so, like every school board across the province, our number one goal is to resume all normal activities as soon as it is safe to do so. We have more students that are returning to in-person learning this year, which is interesting. So we have fewer in the virtual schools. We will have no elementary school-to-school sports. So tournaments and cross-country meets where other schools meet are delayed for now, at least for the beginning of the year. We, of course, want to see what challenges are ahead with the fourth wave, should it hit, as they're predicting. We are resuming all sports for grades 9 to 12, and the rationale for that is around student mental health and well-being. We know how important physical activity is for students. So if we can do this safely, using all of the precautions necessary, then we want to resume sports. Physical distancing in classrooms as much as possible will continue, and masking for grades 1 to 12 with mask breaks. So masks can be removed outdoors when distancing is possible. So for example, if a staff or another student, they're going to talk to one another, then they're asked to just pop their mask back on. So they'll have their masks with them, but unless they have a mask exemption, so outdoors, they will not require a mask, which gives them a little bit more freedom. So what physical measures will be in place to ensure the health and safety? Well, I can tell you that our plant and facilities team has been working very hard since the last lockdown and over the summer months, and I'm sure Cathy can attest to that as well. We work collaboratively with health unit partners, so all 3 health units, and Ministry of Education as a senior team to ensure that our students are safe. We've had significant funding from the ministry for HVAC, and that installation has been made in schools throughout our board. We also have HEPA filters that were funded by the ministry in all common spaces and classrooms that do not have adequate ventilation. So this could be in learning commons, libraries, staff rooms, and so forth. We want to continue with cohorting and physical distancing whenever possible. And we've also tried to be creative in that school schedules will reduce congestion in the hallways and hopefully minimize gathering as much as possible. An example of this is in the Clarington area. I have very large high schools, so they will be having staggered lunches at secondary to try and reduce the congestion in the hallways. And finally, we're very proud of our school teams because we have enhanced cleaning protocols. And, truly, when we look at the numbers, very few of our students became sick last year in schools. Like most of the issues that we had were students outside of the school environment. So we know that our plan certainly works. What options are available for students who choose online learning? Well, online learning in PVNC takes two forms. One is e-learning, which is through a central Ministry of Education e-learning platform. And the second is virtual learning. Both of these opportunities will continue this year. We have approximately 650 students registered in the St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Virtual School, and that is elementary and secondary. So last year we had somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 2,000. So you see the significant drop there in the number of students that are attending virtually. We have a large number who are returning face to face. And I will share my presentation with Joe as well so that you have a copy of this. Our parent guide went live, and so we are providing that input and feedback to parents. What mental health supports will be available? Well, in PVNC, our transitions program ran this summer for students with special education needs and needs connected with mental health and well-being. Drop-ins for these students continued up to last week. All staff of PVNC on our PA days last Wednesday and Thursday reviewed our plan for being well this year, and that includes a number of supports for both staff and students. We have social work support that's going to continue in schools and in the virtual school, and we have a lead psychologist and 2 mental health leads, one of whom focuses almost exclusively on family support. I should mention as well that we're launching a website with a number of resource links and information for both staff and families where they can find resources in their local communities. What challenges will staff face this fall? Well, really, if we think about it, and I'm a parent, I'm a mother of 3. My kids are all starting university. I have some that are in their 6th year, finishing a master's. I have some that are just starting this year. So as a mother of 3, I understand the many challenges and the anxiety that parents face and that students have faced as well, because I've had children attend school through the pandemic. So we know that this is the second return to school with COVID guidelines in place. That has not been easy for anyone, and we understand that. We anticipate, if what we hear in the media is correct, that we're entering the 4th wave. So we have to know that there has to be continued flexibility and shifts in practice to keep our families and our students safe. We're of course concerned about mental health and well-being, the stress of the pandemic. We know there's been job loss for many of our families, and so many of these challenges are complex. So we have to continue to support our students, our families, our staff. And the final piece is oftentimes there's misinformation in the media about school board vaccine policies and procedures. For example, we sometimes get questions, will our children have to have a vaccine at school? That we do not have a mandatory vaccine policy. And so very often I'm finding that we're fielding questions related to that. So misinformation, we have to continue to clarify that information and ensure that parents are comfortable with the approach that we're using. And I've included all of the links for the background information about the board plan for this fall. And as Cathy alluded to, we use the same guidance. So we have basic direction from 2 sources. One is the Ministry of Education operational guidance for schools, and I've put the link in the presentation. And secondly is the Reopening of Ontario guide. We also look to our local health units in Durham, Peterborough, and Kawartha Lakes for additional support and guidance always, and they are amazing, amazing to work with. And of course, we always collaborate and we try to ensure some alignment in creating a return to school guide with our coterminous board. And so I've linked in as well our comprehensive return to school plan, which as I said, I will share with all of you. So that concludes my presentation this morning. I hope that I was able to stick to time and provide some detailed information for you. I'm happy to take any questions, but I'm also aware of Cathy's need to add information there as well. Thank you.
So I'm
Thank you
just
very
going to
much,
jump
Jeannie.
right into it because a lot of mine will dovetail quite nicely with Jeannie. I am not technologically good, so I don't really have a fancy PowerPoint. I just want to talk to you about some of the things that are going on. As Jeannie said in her last slide there, we are very lucky in the Kawartha area, Kawartha Pine Ridge PVNC area, that we work very well with our coterminous board. I can tell you from my provincial role that is not always the case, but we work really closely together so that a lot of what you see operationally around COVID is going to look very similar in both of our schools. We have the same masking requirements. We have the same physical education and the sports teams rules that are going on with our elementary kids and our secondary kids. So we don't want it to look like vastly different from one board to the other, so that we are working together, because really we're all doing the same thing, and really the ultimate goal is just only about keeping our kids safe. I mean, we are aware, I mean, Jeannie can probably attest to this too, that there are some boards in the province that have done things, we've all done things a little bit differently. You make decisions at your own local board that's based on your local community needs. So you will hear that maybe Toronto, for instance, has different mask mandates, or they have different requirements around, I think the latest one that they've done is around sports and extracurricular. But you know, the reality is all throughout COVID here in Kawartha, our numbers have been different than what's happened in Toronto. So you respond to the needs of your community. So the first question I was asked about, what will schools look like when kids walk through the doors this year? You saw from Jeannie's presentation, and again, it's the same for both boards. It's not going to look a whole heck of a lot different than when they left in April. We still have signage all over the place about hand washing and about social distancing and the one-way traffic in the hallways where possible, and in and outdoor. I mean, we're all used to that. You speaking earlier about being at Foodland. It's these kids are going to be well versed on how to do that, because all the doors are one way in and out. All the hallways are divided between this way and that way, and it's going to look very similar. The only thing that may be a little bit different is the gatherings. There is going to be opportunity to have assemblies, which is different. Last year we didn't, and music classes. Now, it may not look like what you're used to. If you are in a very large elementary school, I live in Newcastle. Newcastle Public School is a very large JK to 6 school. They may not have full school assemblies. They might do it in smaller chunks to allow for more spacing in the gymnasium and that type of thing. But really, for the most part, kids aren't going to notice a huge difference from what they saw when they left in April. However, as Jeannie said, we have a lot more kids coming back. We have our population is just shy of 36,000. Last year, we had a lot of kids at home. It was around 3,600 to 4,000 kids we had at home. This year, my last numbers that I received, which in all fairness was last week, it's not up to date today, but we only had about just shy of 500 in our secondary virtual school and just shy of 200 in our elementary virtual school. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot more kids in school, and having the benefit of the provincial work I do, that's what we're seeing across the province. We're seeing that anywhere from 85 to 88% of all schools, all kids have chosen to come back. Now, that may change. I mean, we always like to preface comments by saying anything we tell you about what's happening today could change tomorrow. or what was it, Jeannie, 8:30 on a Friday night of a long weekend. I mean, we get memos from the government at all kinds of interesting times. So it could change at any time. So I preface all that by saying that. So they really shouldn't notice a lot of difference. I think that our teachers, our support staff are going to be very busy in the next couple of weeks with it's not about the academic return to school. It's about the mental health return to school. It's about the social return to school. I mean, there are a number of children who should have been in school and have never been inside a physical school and have only ever done it. If you think about kindergarten kids. And so we do recognize that there's going to be challenges. We don't require our kindergarten kids to wear masks, but we are strongly encouraging that to happen. And I understand from last year that a majority of them do wear them all day. And they can. I mean, it's as is often the case in education, it's not the kids that aren't very good at change, it's the adults. So they're doing quite well with that. The next question I was given is what protective measures will be there to keep kids safe from the virus. Jeannie mentioned all of the protective measures. We are very aware of all of the things we have to do to do the very, very best we can to keep kids safe in school. We have at our board, and I'm sure it's the same at PVNC, have come out with a series of signage pieces like reminding you how to wash your hands, reminding you how to wear your mask, reminding you, and it's you're going to be inundated with safety measures, which is you know, and teachers know to remind the kids about don't touch each other, all those kinds of things, which really kind of makes me so sad, right? Like it's like the kids just need to be kids, and hopefully someday we can get back to that. So there are a lot of safety measures in place. Also, keeping in mind, we don't have mandatory vaccinations in school. We have an attestation. So if you have been vaccinated, and I had to do it as a trustee, I'm sure Jeannie had to do it as the superintendent. We had to go onto a website and upload our vaccination status. And once we do that, it goes to the public health unit. Your board doesn't know. It's privacy rules. But if you are not vaccinated, you will be required to be tested twice a week. This is staff. So the feeling is that it is true. That will also keep our students and staff at a higher level of safety to exposure to the virus. I've been on the phone already this morning with a bunch of people because we're short of bus drivers this year, because we had a bunch quit last week because they didn't want to do that. So it has caused a little bit of an issue. We have some bus routes without drivers. We share busing with PVNC, so you're in the same boat. And they quit because they didn't want to be vaccinated and they didn't want to be tested. So this is a problem. With a teacher who or a staff member, maybe not a custodian, but a teacher can choose to work, hopefully, if there's a place at one of our virtual schools. So the next question, what happens if a child or staff member tests positive? Of course, you have to do a self-assessment every morning. All teachers, staff, support staff, students, everybody has to do and we're all very familiar with it. How you're feeling, is there a temperature, have I been exposed, have I been anywhere, do I know anybody that's been, you walk into Metro and they ask you those questions. It's much the same thing, and you have to do that every morning. And then if you find out you have been exposed, you are required, obviously, to report that, to stay at home. There may be, and I looked through the rules again last night just to kind of clarify this, but my understanding is there's possibility of two different ways of handling an exposure. One, if you've been vaccinated, one, if you have not. Because if you have been vaccinated and you get tested and you're negative, chances are like really, really incredibly high, you're not going to get it. But if you've not been vaccinated, the first time you test negative means nothing. You can still become positive. And so you may have to stay home for the 14 days, which So there could be a difference in the way staff and students are handled should they become exposed to the virus. It's all designed to keep the virus out of schools, because as Jeannie indicated last year, the data, the statistics tell us that kids weren't catching it in school. Kids were catching it because mom and dad brought it home, or mom and dad let them play at the next door neighbor's house whose mom and dad brought it home, or those kinds of things. Community spread it was very, very rare within the school. Delta changes that, we understand that, so we'll be keeping in mind on that. Joe asked me specifically about the secondary school students taking only 2 courses at a time. This is designed for the cohorts so that you have less exposure to different people. What'll happen is if, like, for instance, today, this may be week 1, and today I take course A in the morning and course B in the afternoon. Next week is week 2, so I take C in the morning and D in the afternoon, and then we go back to week 1. There are a few boards who are doing it differently, but this seems to be the most common scheduling, and it is entirely designed to have less exposure to kids, because theoretically, if you had 4 classes in a day, I could be in 4 classes during the day with completely different kids in every class, and the less people you're exposed to, the less chance you are of getting COVID. So hopefully that'll help. And I think that those are the main questions you asked. I wanted to just reinforce that, and I have this conversation locally and provincially, that listen, we are doing everything we possibly can and that we know how to do. We want kids in school, and we want kids in school safely. We know that the best place for them to be is in school. It's just so much better for their mental health. I know that this is not my preferred way of doing meetings. This is not your preferred way of meeting as a Rotary club. There is something about that person-to-person contact that we need as human beings, and it's even more important as children, for our children, because in kindergarten, for instance, and most importantly, we learn how to play nice in the sandbox in kindergarten. And these kids need to be together for not just the academic learning, but for learning how to share and learning how to have conversations when everybody's in the same room and all those things. So I just want to reassure everyone that the most important thing is that we keep kids safe and that we keep them in our schools. So I mean, I don't have a whole lot different to add to the plan, Jeannie, because we all go by the ministry guidelines. I mean, this is the thing. You can see I have it all post-it noted up, and we'll see what happens. But I won't be busy till after everybody gets home from school and mom and dad have to call and talk to me.
Well, thank you very much, Cathy, for that. I know I have a couple of questions. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask Cathy based on the presentation, or Jeannie?
Yeah.
Peter, you put your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. Like, I really appreciate everything that goes into coming up with a plan that's going to keep the kids in school and safe, of course. One of the things I have trouble getting my head around is so many changes. Like you said, it's like changes every day. And kids, usually adapt pretty well, but it's the parents that have to reinforce that. And it's the parents that don't accept changes quite as well. So is there any thought to maybe, keeping these changes to a minimum? You just get over, inundated with changes every day, and it just gets to be too much and it becomes too confusing. And what's the latest, Could they save it up and roll it out like once a month or something like that?
So Jeannie, do you want me to take this one? Because it's a political answer.
Oh, okay.
Cathy, I'm pretty sure we would have the same response though.
Yeah, we don't have a choice, Peter. These changes are not coming from either one of our board offices in Peterborough. These changes are coming directly from the Ministry of Education. We can fine tune some of the direction we're given, but all of these guidelines that we are following have come directly from the ministry, and we don't have choice about this. We can enhance that's what they've given us, but we can't make them less. So
Right.
I agree with you, and it is very frustrating. I can only imagine what it's like to operationalize some of the things that they come out with, and I do mean it. I mean, we did get an email at like 7:30, 7:45, Friday night of Friday of a long weekend about something that had to start today. And I don't know, like who they thought was like, well, we all know people are working in school boards over the holiday weekend. That's the way it goes. But how did they think we were going to do this? And
Right.
so we agree with you. We agree with you that like it's sometimes you feel like you have a little bit of whiplash. Like it's what? Like you just said this, and I totally agree with you. We have no choice.
Yeah.
Right. Thank
And I
you. Thank
think
you very
that's,
much.
Peter, I think that's also a common reaction that we've heard, especially over the last 18 months during COVID, from the general public, you know, because of all the conflicting messages in the media and how things have changed so quickly from one day to the next. And the typical politician's answer is always, well, we're just responding to the latest science. And that comes from the top and it gets trickled down, and it's like a Chinese telephone game, right? That game where you whisper around, you know, the
Well-
circle, and by the time it gets to the end, the message is a little bit skewed.
Well, not to sound too negative about it, but the more scientists you have looking at it, the more options you're going to come up with, right? And
Yeah,
and it is
absolutely.
gonna change every single day because that's just the nature of it. So I
Yep.
don't agree that they're completely following the science. They're following the scientists.
Yes.
And if I
Yeah.
could just throw in as well, just the best that we can do is to try to communicate as quickly as we can. So to make sure that we're continually sending that information out to families and the community.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's the best we can do is to try and get that out there.
Yeah, well, my kids are all grown. I'm dealing with grandkids now that are in JKs, you know, senior K and upward. So it's really difficult for the little ones to try and understand what's going on, right? So
Yeah.
it's up to the parents to reinforce it.
Does anyone else have any questions for either Jeannie or Cathy? Wayne, you've got a question.
Yes, when it comes to a classroom teacher, then that classroom teacher has students physically in the classroom and some that may be at home virtually. Does that same teacher teach both of them?
I can answer that if you wish. So we have separate staff to run the virtual school. So the teachers that have face-to-face students are only teaching those students in their class. And then we have staff and even a principal that is assigned to the virtual school. So then we have classes in the virtual school as well. Separate.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're the exact same. The only difference would be we just by virtue of size from last year have separate secondary and elementary virtual schools, but say they have their own principal, their own administrative staff, their own teachers. It's not the same. There are some boards doing it that way. I make no judgment. That's their decision.
Unbelievable.
I see a
Thank
question
you.
by Dennis. Dennis has his hand up for a question, and then Joe. Oh no, Dennis doesn't. Sorry, that was my cursor. Okay, Joe, you have a question.
Sure. Cathy, a few weeks ago, your organization, the Ontario Public School Boards Association, I think I've got the numbers, the letters right, had called for the vaccination of all teachers. On Friday, the province comes out with or all staff, I guess. On Friday, the province comes out with their a new rule that teachers have to be tested twice a week. First of all, is that enough? What do you think of it? And how's that going to work? I mean, are they going to have the thing going up their nose? And how long does that take to get the results? I mean, can you both comment on that whole system?
So thanks, Joe. That's a good question, because actually, well, first of all, let me just say the Ontario Public School Boards Association is the advocacy association that represents all English public school boards in the province. So that's 31 school boards, 10 school board authorities. We represent about 73% of all K-12 eligible kids in Ontario. So it's a big bunch of kids. what we actually called for, if you read what the statement says, we asked for a strategy and a policy around it, because at the time there was nothing. They were kind of going back and forth, or are we going to say something? Are we going to not say something? And for us, it was like, we need to know what the heck is going to be going on. So they did. I mean, that was the third, I remember, because it was Friday the 13th, and it was like, oh my goodness, do we want to do this on Friday the 13th? And they came out on the 17th of August and said, they call it mandatory vaccine, but it's not. It's as if you're vaccinated, you have to do what I explained earlier, do the attestation to your public health unit that you have been vaccinated. And so that we can, so if needed for contact tracing, we'll know they will know, we don't, who is vaccinated or not. If you are not vaccinated, you have to be tested twice a week. I'm not 100%. Jeannie might be able to better answer this, but you have to be tested twice a week. Right now, we don't have any testing kits in our schools. This is what happened on Friday night. All of a sudden, we find out Friday night late that they're not coming. We're not going to have them in our schools, and that anybody that needs to be tested, they've made some deal with, I think it's Shoppers Drug Mart, and they will go to Shoppers Drug Mart and be tested, or pick up kits and be tested at home. And I don't think it's the antigen, the rapid antigen test. I think it's not the, as everybody I've ever heard get tested, called the scrape your brain thing. It's the rapid one. Is it enough? It's what we have. I mean, really, listen, there's always more. We always could doing more, but it's what we have, and we will make it work. But Jeannie, is that correct? It's twice a week, and they upload that to the public health unit, and it's the rapid testing.
Yes. So, and we just, as Cathy mentioned, we only got that email very late on Friday night. And I just wanted to clarify as well that the call was not from the same trustees association that represents Catholic schools. So we have the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association, OCSTA. So it's a different organization there as well. But everything Cathy said was correct.
It is, sorry, Joe, it is interesting though, like we thought when we came out with that statement and that ask about just come up with some kind of a policy about mandatory vaccines. Is it going to be required or not? Like just say something. About a week later, my French counterparts, because there are 4 associations, right? There's 4 different school boards, so we have 4 different associations. But my French counterparts came out even further than that and said, no, we want all teachers vaccinated. So it's all, and I wouldn't say all over the place. I mean, but it's just there's a range of reactions and responses.
Yeah, it seems to me a little weird as you were talking. I was just thinking that, they require, unless you have a medical, I guess, certificate, they require all kids to be vaccinated for rubella and all those things. But for, a potentially fatal condition like COVID, they don't require staff to be vaccinated. And I just, I guess it's a wider question, but they require, all sorts of places are requiring people to get vaccinated. Before you go to a restaurant.
I would suggest, Joe, that this story isn't over yet. That may happen. Listen, again, I'm the political person. Jeannie's the staff person, so I'm going to say this. That takes a lot of political courage to come out and say that. It would take a lot of political courage for any government, and I don't care who you are, to come out and say thou shalt be vaccinated. I mean, even this vaccine passport that is still wishy-washy, right? So I don't think that story's done yet. I think there was some indication in one of the press conferences by Dr. Moore that there was going to be a change to the Immunization and Education Act that would require students to be vaccinated. We all know if you're a parent, you always carry, I still have my kids, my baby's now 27, but I still have it. The little yellow piece of paper that says what all their vaccines are, and you have to show it to register at school. There was some indication that COVID will be included in that vaccine requirement. But I think that we're not there yet. I think we're not at a place yet where it's politically, that they're ready to do it. I'll just say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I had one question. Amy, it's a fast one,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yep.
We talked about virtual school and in-person learning. There was some discussion about quarantining. If a child is required to quarantine for 2 weeks, will they have virtual school available to them for those 2 weeks that they're required to quarantine?
So if I can answer that one. So we have Google Classroom. So all of our classrooms have Google Classrooms where they post information the classroom teacher would. And so that information will be provided via Google Classroom so they can remain in sync with their current classroom teacher. If they have a virtual, right? So the virtual school is, they're following the same curriculum, but then it would be a different teacher and a different class and so forth. So, which would create a lot of complications. So all of that information would definitely be provided.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you, ladies. I know it's a busy, busy morning. My apologies again. I had to, slip out and get my teenagers off. So they're off to St. Stephen's and they walked together on their first day of school. Aw. So, okay. So thank you very much for joining us, ladies. I know we've got your contacts if there's any follow-ups, and I appreciate you sharing those with Joe so that he can, and we'll forward them on to our members. I know you're busy, so if you need to drop, we totally understand. Good luck, and good luck to all the teachers and all the staff. You guys have worked really hard, and we're just glad to have kids in schools.
Thank you. And I hope everybody who has kids in school has a great year.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Kathy, I would present with you anytime.
I know we did really great, didn't we? Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
See you later. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right. So let's move on to some happy bucks. I'll start. I'm going to have 10 happy bucks because, like I said, my kids have actually not been in the same school for 8 years. They went to separate elementary schools. So this is the first time they're back in the same school together. So they just walked out in their matching uniforms.
Can you go to Dr. Young's office at 1?
Yeah, so grade 9 and grade 12. So there's my happy bucks. Is there any other happy bucks? Oh, Jen?
Yeah, I can do that. And I'll cancel the other thing.
Right.
I'll just wait for Fred.
I muted him, don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, my happy buck, my husband was able to go to the States to visit some friends last week. And he made it there, made it back fairly smoothly and followed all those requirements. And he's a much happier man for being able to see his friends for the first time in 1.5 years. So I have 5 happy bucks for that.
Correct. Anybody else? Oh, Joe?
Sure. I have 5 happy bucks because we were talking about going back to school. My wife, who is in her, I won't say the number, but her early 60s, starts work today as a PhD student and teaching assistant. And I'm quite proud of her, which is really amazing, an amazing thing to do, to have this new career in her 60s, which is just wonderful. And at the same time, the other happy bucks are because my daughter, who has been away for years, is visiting us for 2 months from Holland. And I'm thinking of her, all the days that she went back to school, and she's now finished her school and working at 25 years old, and is working as technology is marvelous. She's able to continue to do her job from here, which is her job is back in The Hague, and she's able to do it remotely. And she's doing online marketing for an international company. So that's really pretty cool. Anyway, those are my happy bucks.
Perfect. Congratulations, Juanita. Steve Code, yes.
I have a few happy buck announcements. One is congratulations to all those who are sending their kids back to school. What a great presentation this morning. The other part is we're meeting up at the golf course this morning, and I'm happy to announce that the golf tournament is a go. We've got lots of sponsors. There's lots of money coming in. We just need everybody to put a push on to over the next week or so. There's no deadline really to the number of golfers we have. It may not be a full house, but I think it's going to turn out really well. So mark your calendars for the 16th of September. We're going to need a few hands. Not a lot, but we're going to need a few. Anyways, I appreciate your time. Look forward to that great day.
How many golfers so far, Steve?
I think we're at about 48, 50, somewhere around that range. We'd like to get to 72, which is four golfers at each hole. And next year we're looking at doubling that once COVID's gone and things like that. So it's going to be kind of like a turnkey operation after this year. And it looks like we're going to raise a little bit of money. So,
Pauline, I saw you. Yep.
Steve, has there been a definite decision about how the profits will be split on this? Like what's for the hospital and what's for Rotary?
well, I don't think there has been a definite decision on that. As far as promoting a cause has created a lot of buzz around getting people to actually sponsor. So there will be some for Rotary, but the majority of it, I would think, would go to the Bowmanville Hospital Foundation.
Okay, it's just this is a time when we really need to bolster our own funds.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's top of mind.
Yeah.
But we don't have a number yet, so it's not all going to the hospital.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
And they were probably coming to us anyways for some funds. And it's just a neat way to actually fund it through Rotary. And they know it's not going to be a big number this year, but hopefully we can create a different cause the following year and so on. When we spend or when we distribute those funds is really going to be up to Bowmanville Rotary. But we should include the Hospital Foundation as one of the causes.
All right. Steve Code, actually, I was talking, I don't know, has Chris Coy signed up yet for the tournament?
I haven't looked at the list this morning, but it continues to change. So,
because I was talking to her last week and she said she was going to. I said, well, if you could do that sooner rather than later.
Yes, and all they have to do is click on the link. They can go to Jason's Facebook, my Facebook, or just use that package that was sent out. Please send that package out to everybody if you can through your Facebook. Just continue to share that message. By the end of this week, we could have more people than we need, but that would be a great thing.
Perfect.
So share the information as much as you can, and signing up sooner than later makes it easier for us.
All right. You were actually in my announcements, so we'll check that one off. If there's no other happy bucks, there is a couple of announcements. I don't know if anybody else has some other than my few. If you do, just let me know. I appreciate the board agreeing to bump our meeting a week. Obviously, we've got a rather large visitation happening tomorrow. Wish me luck with that. It's our first sort of normal visitation, but we're doing it at the Rickard Center, so we'll see how that goes. So we have a big Rotary weekend coming up at the end of the month. There's a bunch of things happening in one weekend. On the 24th of September, which is a Friday at 3 o'clock, the Bowmanville Rotary Club and the Rotary Club of Curtis are meeting to do our flag raising at the town hall in Bowmanville for our End Polio. It's going to be part of the presentation in October. So every club's been asked to do at their municipal, so we're combining this with the Rotary or the Curtis Club, of course. So that's going to be 3 o'clock on the 24th at Town Hall in Bowmanville. On the 25th, which is the Saturday at 11 a.m., the tree is going to be dedicated to George Crone at the Valleys. I know Lyle has more information about it. All I know is it's 11 o'clock. I'm not sure. I've never been to one, believe it or not. So that's going to be Saturday at 11 o'clock. And then on Sunday, which is the 26th, is the Foundation Walk, which is at 8:30 in Trenton. I'll maybe ask Rachel. I think Rachel has more information about that. I don't know if we have to sign up ahead of time or just show up, but that's, yeah, so it's kind of a heavy Rotary weekend. Yeah, Pauline? Oh.
Definitely have to sign up ahead of time. The numbers are limited.
Okay. So Fred, I'll try and get the how we do that to you before you send out the bulletin. Okay. Is there any other announcements? Not that I can. Yeah, so we're a little ahead.
Sorry, I just have one thing. If anybody's interested in in getting involved in the concert. We are having a meeting Thursday night. If anybody would like to join, just let me know and I'll send you the information.
Perfect. We were supposed to have another young lady speaking to us, which is why we're actually going to be a bit early today, which is, that's okay. So Ted, I believe you have our quote of the week. Oh, hold on. I'm going to unmute you.
There. Sorry, I'm slow at the unmuting. This is a quote by W.B. Yeats. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.
Very appropriate for today. Thank you. All right. So if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we help people. It's what we do. And in order to give of yourself to others, you must first have something to give. So enjoy your life, have fun, be good to yourself, and do what you can with what you have where you are. So I thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you next week. Take care,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everyone.